Trust me, I've got this. Don't worry about it. Archie and Sizzle are the bomb, the bomb, the bomb.
So every time I get on the mic, we gotta drop it.
It's the difference in the height. This is the struggle when it comes to the studio.
I'm gonna put tape right here and sizzle.
That's true. We should mark it so that
Yeah,
way.
you should put a little
like
tape there that say
always...
sizzle height, so we just
Get over
know
here.
exactly where it need to be.
Yo, you so short. What's going on, world? It's boy Archie.
S.I. Hello.
Boom. And as you can see by the title, we're going to be talking about writing, recording, and mixing, and the process that goes into doing all of that, like everything that goes into that process. And so I guess like how you get started is one of the biggest things that you can look at whenever you're writing and you're recording specifically is what's influencing you in those processes. Like, is it scenery or is it other people or whatnot? And typically as musicians and as artists, as far as singers and MCs, you definitely have people that you have looked to that have influenced your art and influenced how you create your music and how you create different things that you're doing at the time that you're doing it. Whether it be at that time or whether it just be in general. You have people that have influenced you in the past. And so I know for me, I have a lot of artists, man, that have influenced me. And I am one of those artists that gleans from so many different genres of music. Like, I'm a smooth jazz head at the core. And so, like, if someone was like, you could listen to one genre of music for the rest of your life, what would it be? For me, it would be smooth jazz. I love smooth jazz. I also love hip hop. I love R&B. I love old school hip hop. I love rock. I like classic rock. So I like all these different genres. What are some of yours?
It's the same. Like a lot of different artists from past, present, and I'm not really gonna go into like every artist that I listen to. There's just too many.
Yeah.
But I can talk more about like stuff in my personal life that inspires me. Like the people around me that inspires me a lot. You know, obviously my wife, she inspires a lot. She goes more lovely songs, and Archie inspires me obviously because we're always around each other. Other people that I meet from time to time, people from my work, from my job, they inspire me.
Just because you're inspiring doesn't mean that it's in a good way.
It's true. It's true.
I'm kind of joking, but kind of not.
It's true. It's like he's joking, but yeah, it's very true because people can inspire you and
yeah, man, I'm about to write the strongest diss track about this person, and I'm about to go ham. And thank you for inspiring me to want to go off.
It's true. It's
I'm
like
about to
this song
spaz.
is dedicated to my
This song is dedicated to you because I'm about to spaz.
Man, but yeah, so it's so many. I don't know. It's just hard to like pinpoint one thing that inspires, because there's so much. Like we said in our earlier episodes, like mixing all these different styles and these different ideas and creativities together that inspires the music. And when it comes to specific songs, a lot of times it just comes down to where am I when I'm writing it.
Yeah, it's true.
Because a lot of times, you get inspiration. Like for example, me, I can listen to a lot of like music that I listen to on my playlist and stuff like that. But then when it comes to time for me to actually write, like I forget about those people, because I listened to them like a couple days ago, and now I'm not listening to them anymore. And you're like, yeah, I had an idea from that. I really like the way that they delivered that or something like that. But at the same time, when I'm writing, if I'm on a plane or something, you know, I'm sitting there in quiet. You know, I'm not listening to anybody's music anymore. It's just me, myself, and my thoughts trying to write a song. And so a lot of times I look out the window for inspiration in the clouds, or if I'm driving, I look, you know, everywhere for inspiration of like, you know, just ideas, concepts. And I know we're going to be talking about where we write too, so we'll go ahead and talk about that. I personally, and you might think this is funny, but I do most of my writing in the shower, and the rest of it in the car. Actually, not the rest, like probably 60% of my writing happens in the shower. 20% of that happens driving, and then the other 20 happens everywhere else. So, and then I know that about myself because it's something about the shower that relaxes me and it helps me focus and clears my mind. And so that way I just turn music on, I'm blast, go in the shower, and just bring my phone in there and I just start writing. And that's my like office right now for writing. It just works for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think my writing, as far as where it takes place, everywhere and anywhere. Me personally, like I write in the car. It's really where inspiration hits. Sometimes, like though, I do have specific times where I'm like, okay, I'm about to block out 2 hours and just go write. And I do that probably once a week. I'll just say, I'm gonna go sit down, 2 hours, block out time, write. But then throughout the rest of the time, I'm always writing because I'm always listening to something, because I'm always being influenced by something. Especially whenever it comes to writing to lyrics, even without having one of the beats playing in my head, because lyrics will just start flowing and I'll be inspired whether I see something or I hear something or I talk to somebody that's pissed me off and now I'm about to write a diss track that I'm about to spaz on.
So every time he says haters in the song, you know, that somebody pissed him off somewhere.
Yo, there's a song on the project where I talk, I forgot what song it was, but I spazzed on that song. And I was thinking about experiences. And so, but I think that's one of the dope things about an artist is like being able to be influenced and be just have inspiration come from different directions in life.
I think that also is what makes each artist their own. It makes them original. Is that each person has experienced different things. They're inspired by different people in different situations, in different ways, whether it be negative or positive. And so, I mean, you're the only person who's ever going to go through exactly what you've been through in the way that you've been through it. You know, and you're inspired and you're affected in that specific way. And so, I think with all artists, not just us, but that's what makes you original is the experiences that, you know, the experiences that you've gone through. So it's best to use those experiences and the things you've learned from them, or the way that they've affected you, and you know, put those in your music.
Yeah, the writing process is cool, man. It's really a cool process because I mean, like we were saying, sometimes you just sit down. Sometimes it's super spontaneous and sporadic, but at the end of the day, it's a cool process that different people handle in different ways, you know.
What's going on, beautiful people? It's your boy.
Oh my bad, it's your boy Archie.
It's your boy Sizzle. Welcome back. Tonight, I should say, we're recording a brand new track called Forever With You. It's very, very special, very, very heartfelt, and it's probably gonna make a few of you people cry.
In the music video, you definitely gonna cry.
Oh yeah, but we're excited. We're really excited about it right now. Brandon's over there mixing it up, so.
Doing his thing, got Lisa Lopes on this track.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? New hits in the building, in the booth. So we're excited to be working with them again. If you haven't heard Red Dress with the homie Michael, that's another new hits track.
Fire.
So they just taking over the album, man.
Yeah,
so
man.
we excited. We in here knocking stuff out. You guys stick with us. It's gonna be fire. Let's go. Bow. So another thing about the writing process, and this is something that's really cool that you strive to figure out, like, okay, so personally for me, my delivery and how I deliver my lyrics and how I deliver whenever I'm recording
It's
is
usually FedEx and no UPS.
FedEx and oh my gosh, shut up. It took me a second. Usually, whenever my delivery, it's way different than it was 2 years ago. Because I'm striving to constantly grow in my delivery. A lot of times, just because somebody could have really dope lyrics, if the delivery isn't that good, then the song isn't that good. Mm-hmm. Delivery is that important. And so I strive to constantly grow in my delivery. It goes back to the whole monotone thing. And like, if I'm rapping like this the whole time, but I don't have any type of fluctuation or dynamic to the delivery of my verse, it's not going to necessarily sound the best to me. And so I'm constantly striving to change up my delivery whenever I am recording onto my verses and playing into how I mesh the production of the beat into the delivery that I am doing on my verse.
Yeah, I completely agree, and it's a thing that every artist goes through as they grow as an artist. I believe it's definitely part of the growing process. I think it's extremely necessary for you to grow in your delivery, because if you don't, like you said, you end up being that monotone singer, that monotone rapper, that monotone artist, and you want to continue to get better. Like if you listen back to some of the greatest artists in the world, people you would consider like the greatest artists in the world, you would listen back to their music and how it's actually changed. Like maybe you've loved them for years, but at the same time, it's like if you listen to how they sound at the current time versus how they sounded when they started out, or maybe halfway through their career, they're not going to sound completely different. They're going to sound like the artists that they are, but at the same time, they changed the delivery. And I think that with new artists and with coming up artists, it's fun trying to find different ways to deliver. And it usually happens after you've written, or sometimes during the writing. At the same time, as you're actually writing the lyrics, you can kind of like think of different deliveries. And so I know a lot of times, I know you do this too, like when you're writing, you actually, before you even have words to a song, to your lyrics, you'll just have the beat going and you like create like a melody of like da 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 da. You know what I mean? Like you just kind of go through it to get an idea of what direction you want to go to with. And that's not so much delivery, but more of like a melody of like how your lyrics go. But after you kind of get some words in there, then you can go in and actually decide how you're going to deliver them. A lot of times with me, I'll write something. A lot of times when I write, I'm around people sometimes, and so I'm not able to just be out loud rapping a bunch of random stuff. You know what I mean? So like a lot of times I'm like in my head, I'm writing the lyrics and delivering it in my head, not out loud. But when I finally finish writing it and it comes time for me to say it out loud, I completely screw it up, because in my head I was doing things and I wasn't accounting for breathing, and just different situations that, it's a little bit different when you're singing and rapping in your head. You can sound amazing in your head because your imagination is amazing, but whenever it comes to using your voice, it's a little bit different. So you have to kind of practice the delivery. Sometimes it takes a little bit more. For me, a lot of times it takes me a little bit longer in the studio because of my delivery, trying to get my lyrics in a way that I would like to deliver them. But it's definitely a fun part is figuring out your delivery. And it really plays it brings so much more to your verse. Sometimes I've heard in the past some people were criticizing, not in a bad way, but criticizing artists or rappers. They're like, yo, that verse was dope, but the delivery just wasn't there, And I've had the situation myself where I've written stuff and, the lyrics were good, the message was good in the lyrics, but my delivery just wasn't there yet. So I had to go back and redo it or figure something out to make the delivery a bit better. But it's fun, but it also can be a challenge, So it's just another thing for you to overcome.
Yeah.
Oh, we need to lay out the beat, because right now, as it is, there is not a second verse on it. So copy what you have behind Archie's part.
What is he talking about?
On another.
Oh, I got to love it, in it but not of it. Hard times arise, I'm right here above it. Light years above it. When hard times arise, I'm light years above it. Light years above it. When hard times arise, I'm light years above it.
Bridge after the chorus.
Go at the beginning of the song.
If you had to choose one, like, what would be your favorite, recording or writing?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Probably recording for me. I think recording is more fun to me because you've already kind of like, you've done the hard work. To me, the writing part is definitely harder than the recording. All you're doing is saying what you wrote,
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, but recording to me is a little bit more fun to me because then I can actually go into the booth and, hear what my ideas sounded like, and then I get to go back and the producer can play it back for me. I get to hear it in my ears, and then I can make changes based on how I sound. Because whenever you're rapping it, if you're not pre-recording it some way, making like a sample for yourself, if you're not doing that, you don't actually know what you sound like. Like you can rap it out loud and stuff like that, and then after you listen to it back, like, oh, I actually sound pretty monotone. You know what I mean? So I like the recording part. How about
I
you?
think for me, hey, it's recording too. Like I love to record. I do record my stuff before I go into the studio just to hear it back and memorize it. But the writing for me is like getting it down, and then the recording for me is like throwing my personality on it. I love like just being able to get into the studio and get behind the booth and get behind the mic and getting in the booth and just like letting loose and letting go, and really throwing your personality onto the track is what I think is one of the funnest things about recording music. Even when people listen, we fall in love with artists, and a lot of times we fall in love with their music, but we fall in love with their personality.
Yeah.
And so being able to like toss your personality onto a track is one of the most attractive things whenever it comes to somebody listening to music. Like whenever they listen to a certain artist, whenever you listen to your favorite artist, you're listening to them because you want to hear them. So what I mean is somebody else could take that same beat, take those same lyrics, and do it onto a track, and you wouldn't like it as much if your favorite artist didn't do it because you like them for their personality. And so for me, like I love recording because I love chunking my personality onto the track.
I think another dope part about recording is you get to share your personality, but you actually also get to share like the feeling that you're in with that. You know what I mean? So like going in there, like I think it's really cool going into the booth and we're writing like when you're writing a super hype song, you go into the booth, you got the super hype verse, and you go in there and you're just super hype. You know what I mean? Like you're in there just like freaking angry at the freaking mic. You're just like, just like super hype at it. You know what I mean? But then when you're writing like a sad song or a more heartfelt song, or something that's a little bit like, you know, I won't say depressing, but you know what I'm saying? Like something more real, whatever. You know, you go in there and it's just like, one of the dope things about recording too is that you're usually in the booth by yourself, and I feel like it puts you in this bubble. It puts you in your own box to express how you feel about whatever it is that you're recording or you're writing or you're singing. And that's one of the parts I really like is that when I first started doing going into studio recording, I was nervous because I've always kind of been a person that's really to myself. Whenever I was first writing and stuff like that, I never really even knew if it was any good. You know what I mean? I was like, I don't know how. I'm not I'm not confident in myself yet. And so when I would go in there, it would usually be just me and the producer, nobody else. And I was even a little bit shy, even to the producer hearing me, because like we just said, you're letting your personality, you're letting yourself loose. You're basically being vulnerable in the studio. You're being vulnerable on the mic when you're in there recording, and you're trying out new ideas. And so sometimes your ideas are not always going to work. Sometimes they're not always great. And so sometimes it can kind of be, how would I say, intimidating going into the booth and then hearing allowing other people to hear how you feel, allowing other people to hear your personality, to see who you really are. You know what I mean? As if you're actually rapping, as if you're actually making music that is reflective of who you are. But so yeah, when I first started doing it, it was kind of like intimidating because I was like, oh, he's gonna hear how I sound, you know. So it's really important to have a good relationship. This is not something we're gonna talk about, but it's good to have a good relationship with your producer, and also because that way you can actually go in there, you can feel confident, you can feel comfortable going in there and being vulnerable on the mic, and so the producer can then give you constructive criticism on what you did and if you should redo it, you know, how you should do it, things like that. And so I think that our producer is really great at doing that. And so if he tells me what you did sounded horrible, I'm like, all right, let's do it again. You know what I mean? So
I always like to start with the kick. And as you mix it, you want to mix it at a predominantly loud volume on your monitoring section, but low in your DAW, because you'll be able to master it a lot louder. So many people like to mix it loud, all these things, all these faders are shooting up +6 and etc. That's not what you want to do, because you deteriorate your headroom. Everything's in a digital world, so it's like in a digital box, and when you overcram that box, it's going to sound muddy and everything. So you want to give it space. Start low, your monitor mixing high. It's already bumping hard, and I already have it at -15. Then you go from there. Once you get your kick and your snare and your bass right, then you can start to bring up the other instruments. So I like to kind of make my mixes sound beefy in production. This right here is a analog preamp emulator. You have more of a Neve, SSL. This one, I forgot which that one is, but it serves its purpose. I like how the SSL is giving it the punchy sound, so I'm gonna roll with that.
it's very important to have that relationship with your producer, because you could be working with some other producer you never knew. He's just there trying to get your money for studio time, and you can record the most worst song in the world. He's like, bro, that's fire right there. That's hot. That's lit. The club gonna love that. Fire. You know what I mean? That's that super hot fire.
That's that super hot fire.
So it's important to have somebody who can tell you the truth and tell you, like, this is not good. You know.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm very thankful for Brandon.
Yeah, man. Our engineer is fire. He's dope. And so I think that whenever it comes to the recording process and the writing process, it plays a huge part. This is in my top 2 favorite parts. Earlier you heard me say that the beat production choosing part was one of my favorite parts. It was one of my 2 favorite parts, and this is my other favorite part. This is like, I love writing, I love recording, and I love to mix and being in the studio when we're mixing, because it's a process of you really taking a step into the finalization of the project that you're striving to put together and to put on display for other people to be able to see and either like or not like, you know. That's the thing. Whenever you're an artist, you are putting yourself out there, and you're hoping people like it, and you're understanding that some people ain't gonna like it and some people gonna like it. And so,
no matter how good you are, no matter how amazing you are,
yeah,
no matter how talented you are, there's gonna be people who ain't gonna like it.
Yeah, no
you gotta
matter.
deal with it.
Yeah, and so it's dope. That's the process of the recording and the writing.
I think though, you saying that your favorite part, my favorite, I think 3 parts of the process is in order. 1, probably the beat, the receiving beats part. The second, probably the mixing the beat part. We talked about that a lot in the studio, about how we love the part when, like, he's going through mastering the beat. You get to hear all the separate parts, and then you finally get to go through and put those parts where he wants them to be, to make them sound best with the vocals. And then third for me is recording, just because I love how I like the mixing part, because I like hearing how the recording ends up. You know what I mean? Like editing and stuff like that. So that's super dope.
Yeah. Know what I'm saying?
Know what I'm saying?
Know what I'm saying?
Know what I'm saying? H-Town, know what I'm saying? You already know.